This is the Ridiculously Amazing Insurance Agent Podcast, hosted by me, Kelly Donahue-Piro. This show is for growing insurance agencies looking to maximize their biggest investment, their people. Listen to the top agency performance partners clients share their story on how they boosted their performance by executing a plan. Let's head to the show. Hey everyone, really excited to welcome this guest on our podcast, the Ridiculously Amazing Insurance Agent Podcast. This is an agency I have worked with for probably on my own as agency performance partners 5.5 years, and then also in a previous life, so probably over a decade, and just really impressed by how the second generation of two brothers taking over this agency and being systematic and intelligent and understanding kind of wisdom beyond their years of what it's like to run a 30-person agency. So I'm so pleased to welcome the Handzel Agency. You're going to learn a lot more about Bogus and Lukasz in the coming minutes, but listen to how they're intentionally and incrementally evoking change in their agency. Thank you so much. Without further ado, let's bring them on. Well, hello, everyone. I'm here to welcome some guests that I've known for a good chunk of my insurance career. We've known each other for quite some time. That's in a different life that we don't talk about that often. But you know, if you put enough glasses of wine to me, I will talk about it. But I'm here today with the Handzel Agency. So we've got Bogus and Lukasz Handzel. And I want to turn it over for you guys to introduce our listeners to who the Handzel Agency is, what do you do, and let's kick it off there.
So I guess I'll start. I'll just introduce myself and then let Bogus introduce himself, and then let's kind of give a background on our agency and how we started. But my name is Lukasz. I am the younger brother, one of two. I've been in the insurance industry, I usually say most of my life, just because our father started the agency. I was on the carrier side, kind of did a rotational program for about 2.5 years there. Really liked the client facing and kind of agency side of the business, and decided that it made more sense to work within the family. So I came here about 3.5 years ago now. Have been working here ever since. I do most of the accounting and back office type work, and focus mostly on the commercial side of the agency as we try to develop that aspect.
And you recently got married this year.
I recently got married in a very, very lucky time period where cases were at an all-time low. Nobody got sick from the wedding, and luckily everything worked out. So very happy, very blessed in that aspect. So.
And you are a Hawksoft reporting ninja, I believe.
Numbers are my thing. I do like to dig into numbers and kind of like that technical aspect. I am very analytical in that aspect, and most of the things I look at kind of are black or white. So I kind of like to find things that way. So reporting, numbers, accounting, and things like that. I like to work with that aspect of business. Yes.
Fantastic. And so now we have to go to the older one.
The older one, the one that causes all the problems around here. So I guess Lukasz forgot to give you the background of our agency as a whole.
Follow up with that.
Okay, I'm following up with it. It's yin and yang. That's why we're here. So our father, Greg, started the agency back in 1990, towards the tail end of '89, before the mandatory state auto insurance law came into effect. So before it was mandatory in Illinois to carry auto insurance. That first day, once that law did go into effect, he currently holds the record for the most policies sold in one day.
Oh, I didn't know that.
114 paper policies. It was a 3-hour wait outside of the office. He let one person cut that line because they ran down the street a few blocks to the one carrier that he did have for more paper applications. So that's how we started the agency. Basically, was sitting there shaking, writing a commitment of $20,000 in written premium. That first year, just on non-standard auto liability only, did over $1 million.
Wow.
So that was 30 years ago this year. We've been lucky enough to inherit such a great agency with some great people on board. Celebrating our 30th year. The agency's grown out of the needs of our customers, and our niche is specifically the Polish community here in Chicago. So our book of business is very, very mixed on what we do right. We do have some clients that have some non-standard stuff. But we're here to teach them, educate them on insurance, and hopefully be partners with them through their journey throughout their financial needs. I personally have been at the agency 15 years. I've known Kelly for most of that time, through the good and the bad. So we know each other pretty well on that aspect. And basically I run the day-to-day stuff, and Lucas does all the numbers. So I'm more the thought guy, and he kind of reels me in and says, that's not possible, and this is why. So we're a pretty good team when it comes to that stuff.
Awesome. So big question, where do you see the insurance space going? You know, like if you take a look at what's going on, what are your predictions for the independent insurance space?
That's a good question. I think everyone's trying to answer that nowadays, right? I think for us, it's a little different just because of the niche that we operate in. There's definitely some challenges that we kind of come across, but there's also some cultural values that will likely not change for quite some time. I do think on the independent side, I do think that the business that we do conduct in the future is going to be far more relationship based than it's ever been before. You're going to see the value that agents bring to the table be completely different than they used to be before. And those agents that are able to implement technology and preferences for their clients on how they communicate are going to be the ones that are going to have the leg up going forward. You're going to see definitely a lot of acquisitions in the carrier space that might create kind of a shakeup in certain things. But I think the people that, at least the circles that we hang out with, it's a good group of agents. They know what they're doing. They always communicate, their ideas and thought processes moving forward. And I'm not competing with the agent down the street. I think there's enough market share out there for everybody. So I just, I like that there's a lot of collaboration going on for sure out there.
Just piggybacking off of that, kind of saying what he's saying in different words, the insurance industry has always been an industry where it's taken a while to kind of change compared to other industries because insurance is so based off of historic data.
Sure.
They need that historic data to set, it is a financial industry. They need to set those rates, they need to figure out how to set those rates. That's all based off of historic data. And that takes a long time to get all that data. And I think what we're going to start seeing over the next few years is, as any industry, it's going to become more and more specialized and more catered to the client. And that's going to be based off of how they interact, not necessarily from a price standpoint, but how that client interacts with the agent, with the carrier and whatnot. So, and I think we're starting to see a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of, these past few years, you've seen a lot of agents go online only or over the phone only, or other people are specializing in, like what we're trying to do is specialize in the Polish American market. You're going to see a lot of those niches kind of start to pop up.
I think you're right. And I love how you really are specializing in that market. And if I remember correctly, when your dad came over here from Poland, he really kind of started off with not much, right? So he started this whole agency, and now we're 6 locations?
4. We did at one point have 6, but we're at 4. We're roughly 30 people. But I think just the way that business changes, I think we're not going to look to grow more locations if we're going to kind of hopefully centralize our whole team, just because the team right now, the way it operates is everything is connected as one entity. So any service change that comes in, anything, we're trying to make sure that any available person that's going to handle that as quickly as possible is going to touch that. So probably won't expand location wise right now, at least, but yeah, it's definitely big enough to have a few locations for sure.
Well, and I know you guys have really worked on scaling the business and technology and trying to streamline as much as possible. If you look back on some of the things you've been working on the past few years, what do you look as the biggest ways you've been able to streamline the agency a bit?
I think from a service standpoint, Bogus has taken a massive initiative towards making everyone work as a team rather than per location or having a service rep that works for a specific producer. There are a ton of requests that almost anybody in our agency can handle. And I think from a customer's perspective, knowing that there's a team of people working for them that can help them with whatever they're doing, whether it's a billing inquiry or something like that, we do try to work on a first call resolution standpoint. And if that, whatever that request is, can't be handled by that first person, well, we're going to let you know, okay, hey, we're going to make sure that the proper person takes care of this. We're going to follow up with you. And we're going to let you know what our timeline is on that. But Bogus has done a great job is noticing that we were kind of lacking in that, and the response time, if one person was handling 500 tasks all of a sudden and another person was just sitting there, well, that's not really fair. Yeah, it doesn't help for the customer either. It's not fair for the customer.
I mean, yeah, if any person that is going to be the second generation coming up in a family-owned agency, there's a lot of you have to do a lot of proving that you're worth it. Took me a while to do that, kind of get my head straight as to how I wanted to approach everything. Was waiting for some direction. It turns out that from my dad's standpoint, it wasn't. He's going to give me direction. He's going to let me kind of have that free reign and see how it plays out. And I never really understood that until, maybe 5 or so years back when I really started implementing changes. But when you really start, I think the first thing we really needed to do is we needed to clean up our data. And you've been part of that whole initiative. So you've seen everything that we've done.
Well, you management systems too, so, along the way to help with some of the data, right?
Yeah, I mean, eventually we figured out that instead of going back and cleaning up the data, the easiest way to do is just cut everybody off from making any future mistakes and set everybody on a path forward. So we did do that. Yeah, that was quite a challenge, but the team handled it very well. But until you figure out your data and what your team does on a day-to-day basis, it's hard to make any business decisions. It's very easy for a new agency to be focused 100% on growth because they don't have that book of retention, those preferences, those client habits, those employee habits ingrained in their culture, right? So you have to take a look at that. You have to take a look at what you're doing, who's doing what, who's doing it, how. Is this important? Isn't this important? Is something missing in the process? Kind of take a look at it and rebuild that from the ground up, right? Billy Williams says one of the first steps of building a house is cleaning up the site, and that's something that almost everybody forgets about. So we went back and we kind of cleaned up the site as we kind of prepped the agency for the next 30 years of development. But with that, you've seen it's some people didn't fit into the culture, great employees and stuff like that, but they just weren't. You couldn't change the way that you need to change and quickly pivot and stuff like that. So we've basically rebuilt our service team in the last three years. Most of the producers have been with us for 20 plus years, so they've stayed on. So we have a good mix of culture. But it really starts in understanding your data and making sure that data that you have in your system, whatever you have access to help make those business decisions as clean as possible, and everybody understands it across the board.
So let me just ask a follow-up question, because what Lucas had kind of set up was, okay, we really kind of tried to centralize the servicing, and the pushback or the common question I'll get a lot is, well, these people only know this person, they only want to deal with this person. As you were kind of centralizing everything, how often did it really come up that a customer was not excited to talk to someone new?
I think that it's a good question. It's hard to say because, as you usually hear more of the bad rather than the good, right? There's more likely people to leave a bad review than a good review, and that's something we always battle with, asking for reviews and stuff like that. But that's the same thing when it comes up to any sort of change or process. You're going to hear about the one bad instance out of 40 different phone calls, and that's going to kind of lead the way that meeting is going to go, per se. I think that there are certain hurdles that are met with just because we have such good people and clients like working with those people, but those clients understand that at a certain point, that person that's been handling them for the last 15 years has reached a limit. They can't grow any further because they're doing everything across the board. Not necessarily, they don't need to know how to do that, right? So it's definitely a learning process. I think a lot of customers have adapted and changed. But it does start from the point of sale, and does start from reassuring current clients from their producers that we're here as a team. The team works well. We've introduced a lot of training. We work very well as a team. The communication preferences and aspects in the agency are tenfold what they were 2 years ago. So it's definitely a hurdle, and you do still hear it, but it's far less and less. Now, as these people that make those conversations happen, they're more confident in those conversations.
For sure. Go ahead.
You know this better than everyone, but these changes take so much time because we already have an established book of business, and to be able to touch every single one of those clients to teach them and kind of get them, in line with what our new processes are, takes time. And, we have one producer specifically who deals with a specific book of business that every single time someone calls or they call, they want to speak with her and her specifically, and they won't say anything. And then they get on the line with the producer and it's, oh yeah, I want to make a payment. Well, okay, let me transfer you back to the person that handles the payments. And then it's just reestablishing that. But, this stuff takes time because you're not just going to talk to one person and everyone's going to know. You're going to have to go through that entire book of business once, twice, maybe 3 times before they're just like, oh yeah, this makes more sense, so.
Well, it's a good lesson for people out there who might be a solo shop, right? And they're sitting there, they're teaching their client all these things. Oh, like, talk to me, call me for everything. When you do grow, you have to retrain the client. But it's also a scenario of that producer can only grow so much if they're doing that much service work too. They have to get good at divorcing. And, if you talk to 10 people, one person might have a little bit of a problem. Then they talk to the new person who's also awesome and it goes away. But you can't be 100% available all the time, especially when you have a team of 30 people. It's much more fun to spread it all out when you can.
It is. And that was one of the things that we had to go back with once we cleaned up the data and we felt comfortable with the way that the data looked, and we moved to agency management systems, and we were ready to really refresh the workload for especially our service team. And we ran a report, and it turns out that one of our part-time people had twice the amount that we calculated that a full-time person should have that they were responsible for. Luckily that person's an absolute rock star and can work through everything, but imagine the pressure that's been taken off their shoulders now that we finally have that data clean. And it wasn't anything bad, right? Business was good, everybody was growing, but it came to a time where the values of that Lucas and I have and how we see the business growing and using the tools that technology gives us to continue that growth are different than the previous, generation that they've been here for so long. They've gotten, comfortable, and that's good, but they also have all that knowledge, which, we need all those years that they've built up, and teaching those customers those preferences, right? New agencies get it easy, right? You get tough part that they have is the contracts. Now there's easy ways for them to get contracts with some aggregators and stuff like that. But if you set up a new client with automation reminders and you teach them right away, which are all the tech tools that you can't even imagine a new agency is going to start without, that's easy. Now go back and change that for some of the clients that have been here for 20, 25 years, some of the producers that have been here for 30 years with us. Teach them how to add that into their workload. It's tough. And as our niche with a lot of, agency bill, stuff, we're not all download. There's a lot of paperwork, manual stuff that we had to do, automating those processes. We've probably gone through, I don't know, at least 100 different process changes in the agency in the last 2 years. So it's huge. It's a huge process.
It is huge. I mean, I always say, like, imagine having to go get 8,000 cell phone numbers.
Yeah.
Back when we even first met, texting wasn't a thing that you could do really well in management systems. Now today it's mainstream, but you got to go get 8,000 cell phone numbers.
Yeah.
And put it in the right spot to make it all work.
Yep.
So for all you new agents out there, you might be jealous of the, routine payments and routine commission checks and bonus and profit sharing, but you do have a fresh start. Are you an insurance agency with over 10 people in your small commercial and personal lines departments? Do you love our videos, podcasts, and content? If so, we heart you. We love you, love you, love you for that. We're pleased to announce our agency performance program. It's a 2-year program that gives your agency a butt kicking. No, we're here to make you ridiculously amazing, but you gotta get serious about it. We're going to give you a plan for your agency with the support of my entire team and me, Kelly Donahue-Piro, as your coach for your agency, one and only. We'll start with an assessment of the agency and then get key metrics so we can be working on them. We'll launch your team efficiency and start a time management program. Then we're going to go into renewal review calls and install a sales process. You're going to get all of our process templates along the way and access to me as we hit any road bumps, speed blocks, etc. We're only taking 20 clients into this great program this year. So if you're interested, hop on right now. But it is only open to agencies with over 10 people that focus in personal and small commercial, and just the departments. Your whole agency doesn't, but we'll be working with that department. And you get unlimited attention from me. Who wouldn't want that, right? Maybe you do, but maybe the team doesn't. I don't know. Hopefully we get it all going. Reach out today so that you can secure your spot, and we'll see you soon. So what's on the docket for 2021? What is the Handzel Agency focused on?
Growth.
Yeah.
You like that combined teamwork answer right there at the same time? Exactly.
So, I mean, since I've come on board, we've really been able to take kind of a deep dive and clean up of, the data that we've been talking about and seeing where are we lacking and how can we, make up for that. So we dug into our data, saw what we were spending a lot of time on, see what tasks we can streamline. Certificates were a big one. We'd issue about 1,500, 2,000 certificates a month. Found a process to, streamline that process and make sure everyone is comfortable with it, which took a while. Other service requests, just anything that we see that we're seeing very frequently that's taking too much time on our service staff, or maybe a producer's touching it when a service staff member could be touching it. We keep coming back to, this thing of what was considered valuable, a valuable conversation for a producer to have 10 years ago is not the same what is considered to be a valuable conversation for a producer to have now.
Sure.
Now it's a lot more based on that relationship, how it's going, proactively calling, changing things and whatnot. And since we kind of realized that and cleaned up the data, worked on our service staff, now we feel in a confident position where we can start, bombarding our producers with leads, but being confident in the fact that the processes are going to take care of themselves and that we can change our role in the agency of being in the back of the office and fixing everything to being more of a face of the office. So getting in touch with our community and making sure that people will start recognizing us too, rather than our dad, who has been a big face of the agency for 30 years now. So.
Yeah, and that's definitely a tough shoes to fill, for sure. For someone who has a standing radio segment, is known in the Polish community for doing a lot of charitable contributions. So he's out there and he's made some connections, and it's our turn to kind of go out there and become the face of the agency. We're the face of the agency behind the scenes, as you may know. But out in the community, we're not quite there yet, and it's just because we really wanted to make sure that we had all of our processes cleaned up, all of our team set up in the right mindset, that when we do push for this growth, it's going to go as smoothly as possible. Now, we have done a lot. We've done a whole bunch of improvements across the board. There's still plenty of stuff that needs to be done, and we've got a good group here, and we feel very confident that we're going to knock things out of the park for 2021.
Yeah. I agree. Well, if I can say, one of the biggest shifts I think that you guys have experienced is you had these producers who did all this work, and the account managers really kind of felt like assistants, right? They were true, like that customer service rep, pick up the phone, take the payment, send the auto ID card. And you really kind of worked hard to level up that role a little bit.
Yeah. One of the most important things in an agency is training. It's ongoing training. It's making sure that the people that, a customer calls you with a problem, and you want to make sure if you're trying to maintain that first call resolution phone, the process, that person that picks the call has the training and the knowledge to answer that. So we make sure that there's training available for all of our licensed staff, that everybody has access to it. If they don't have access to it or don't know, we utilize Slack very heavily. I think we're getting close to 200,000 messages sent in over a year and a half within Slack. So we're zooming along there. But raise your hand. If you don't know the answer to a question, raise your hand, ask for help. We're here to sit by you and help you walk you through it and teach you a few things while we do that. And there's no reason to be afraid of that at all. So
Yeah. And working with you, when we started the retention or account review program, more than 6 months ago now, for us, it was more of being a culture change of how they're viewing customers. It's not just calling and, hey, your renewal's coming up, take payment, move on. It's, hey, your renewal's coming up. How's your life going? What's changed? Being more proactive towards that approach and seeing the client as a whole rather than a policy per policy basis. So we're really trying to take those cultural changes as well. And now that we're kind of a lot more confident in our processes, we feel a lot better selling our agency. Not selling the agency as if we're going to sell the agency, but selling it to
I'm not ready yet.
No, not in that sense, but selling the product of the service of our agency, right, to potential clients and new business partners and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, you go through a cultural mindset change within the agency, but that also happens for all the customers that you have and everything that appears outside the agency, right? With our growth and with that business that we have written, unfortunately, you do get some, let's say, not so great carriers on board that may cause some claim issues, and you want to make sure that the customer understands that, we're the agency here to help them in those situations. We're not the insurance company, which a lot of people like to make that mistake sometimes in those situations. So it's reassuring them that what we are, what our value is, the producer that makes a sale, he's going to be there throughout, but with any service related tasks, like making it easier for the customer. If not, there's a whole team of 12 service people that are waiting on those phones to help you out. So it's definitely a big thing, but yeah, we've cleaned up enough where we feel comfortable in 2021 to hopefully, as long as we can leave our office safely without masks, make some introductions and really show them, hey, this is us version 2.0. So we're happy to do that in 2021.
Well, and I think in the program that we just went through, like Lucas mentioned, I really got to see your team grow in confidence.
Oh, yeah.
I think if you recall, like that Father's Day weekend, it was like ghostly white, like, what are we doing? We're going to call people. That's an agent's job. I'm a customer service person, all the things that normally come up. But after they got into the rhythm of it, I think they started having a little bit of fun.
They did, and we tried making it as fun as possible. It's definitely a process that they all had to learn. So there were some hiccups, but we reassured them that when there is a hiccup, if you do fall behind just because it is a heavy workload, if you're pushing close to 8,000 customers, it's tough to kind of really get your head around, okay, how am I going to call all these people for an in-depth account review, minus all the other types of contact points that we have within the agency. It is definitely, it was nerve-wracking for them, and it was quiet. We definitely had some questions the next Monday when they came into the office. People were afraid of what was going on. They were uncertain. They were uncertain if this was the job that they signed up for. Luckily, they're all still here. 2 of those people want to become agents next year. So that's a good plus too. But the conversation at graduation that we had a few weeks ago, that conversation completely changed. They couldn't imagine that they'd be doing this. They couldn't imagine what they could have been able to do. One of our pain points was that we needed to bring our percentage of auto customers that didn't have homeowners down within the agency. And we brought that down, with the help of the retention program, probably 3 points this year.
Wow.
Or so. It's definitely working. There's definitely a benefit from it. And not only that, but it's coming to the point where producers are saying, hey, why aren't I getting those cross-sell opportunities? Because sometimes, if they have someone that's touching an account that's part-time, they might be putting, all that effort into there at the same time. So it's a whole rebalance of work all the time, making sure that we queue up all those possibilities for those producers. But it's huge. I've never seen producers rely on the knowledge of a service team member as much as they do now, because they're just so in depth with the whole process, the agency and the products. It's absolutely fantastic.
I think if I remember correctly, they teed up 199 opportunities for the producers.
Yeah, I think we hit 200 that day. So, but yeah, we wanted to make sure.
Yeah, in 6 months. So
it was
great.
Yeah.
And those are, and we always say, like, those are great leads because they're already your current customers. So they're already someone that says yes to you.
and we might have the opportunity to combine everything and save them any more money. So it's really the hottest, most special lead that you could get. So, I think that was amazing to watch them do it. And they did quite a bit on life insurance too, which is actually pretty rare for us to see. We see people have a lot of trepidation on life.
I'd say so. I wonder how much of it is knowing what's going on outside of, the insurance industry right now. I'm sure that has some effect, and people probably have some questions as to what gets covered and,
Yeah, are they rethinking it? Do I have enough? What's the deal with what are we doing here? So that does make total sense. So obviously you guys are a brother duo, and it does sound like you kind of divided your roles back and forth. What's it like working with family?
So I'll let him answer. We'll see what he says, and I'll go back on it.
I mean, at times it can always be stressful, right? I think a lot of it is based on the fact that we've just known each other for so long and know kind of what irks each other and what doesn't, and kind of, I mean, I wouldn't say I'd ever have the type of conversation I have with my brother as I would if I was just into another business relationship with somebody that I had met specifically for business. But at the same time, even through all those conversations, our goal is the same. I'm fighting for his future as much as he's fighting for my future. And once you come to that realization, all those little conversations and everything just kind of fall by the wayside. So the fact that we're fighting, and it's fighting for...
We're fighting?
Yeah, the main goal. We're fighting for some. We're not fighting against each other. But, we're working towards the same stuff.
Sure.
I'm working, for his future, his family's future, making sure that they're safe as just as much as he is for mine. And I think once you have that appreciation and have that realization that that's the long-term goal, I mean, day-to-day stuff kind of just, I forgot what we talked about last week.
I didn't.
But
no, I mean, there's definitely some challenges, right? You're never really certain. If you're, especially since I've been within the agency longer, there's definitely something to prove. And it took a lot of time for my dad to see that, hey, this is where my heart, my passion is. And now you even said it to our service team during the meeting that we had, was I think that you guys can all see that when Bogus talks about insurance, he talks about it passionately. My wife also says that it might not necessarily be about insurance. It's more about the agency aspect, in my opinion, because I love the business aspect of running an independent agency. Insurance is just kind of a perk of that. But there are challenges at times, but that's what the beauty is of being brothers, is that we can yell at each other and 2 minutes later I could be like, so do you want anything for lunch? It works great. I don't think we could have accomplished any of the stuff that we've accomplished so far in the past 2 years as quickly as I have if we didn't split those responsibilities.
Sure.
I'm more of an ideas process guy. Lucas is more of a numbers guy, right? So if I come up with an idea, I ask if this is feasible. He tells me, okay, this is the data that we're going to need. We kind of go at it together to figure out, how to make this stuff work. And that's been absolutely fantastic because our strengths are different and our weaknesses are different. So we get to be able to pick, either help out one another in certain aspects where our weaknesses exist, or vice versa. So that's absolutely great. And we see a lot of opportunity in the space in the future in all sorts of aspects. So, we're looking, like I said earlier, we're looking for the next 30 years. Hopefully we're going to have this conversation in 30 years. It's probably going to be 3D and holograms and stuff like that by that point. But yeah, it's a challenge, but it's definitely a blessing. I absolutely love it.
I mean, nothing good comes without challenges. So It's good to have, opposition in the sense of making you think about certain things differently.
Well, that's a good way to put it. So what advice would you have for agencies out there considering the renewal review call program? Give people the good, the bad, the ugly, all of the above.
There isn't anything bad.
Well,
last year, you're already waiting too long thinking about it. No, I mean, it's everybody's staff is going to take a look at it a little bit differently based on the processes you already have built into your agency, right? There's definitely some value in it, it's definitely something that I think if an agency can invest in that training, they should. And you make it easy to adapt to each agency's processes and preferences, which is really great. It's not a set thing. You need to do this, 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 and this. It's let's see how this works for a few weeks. Let's see what we need to come back and change and how to make it better so it fits your agency. And that's the beauty of Kelly, is that you've seen so many different agencies with so many different processes and so many different books of business that you kind of have an idea as to what works, what doesn't work. If you run into any sort of roadblock on information, you always have someone in your back pocket on to help with that. So it's absolutely 100% worth it. There's going to be ups and downs, but if you don't invest in that training and that knowledge, you'll never know what those ups and downs are. And you might be kicking yourself later about the fact that you never even opened that door.
On top of that, I think this whole process, it kind of makes you question every single time, how do I make this call more productive for the agency and for the client than just reminding them about a renewal?
Right.
Whether it's correcting data, whether it's going the next step and offering more coverage because you see a lapse in coverage somewhere or a gap in coverage, whether it's offering and letting them know that we do other service, like other lines of business, whatever that is, it's finding out, how can I be more valuable to this person's life? How can I add more value to their life than just reminding them about a payment?
Well, and I think I always couple that too with it also helps proactively work out any E&O risks that might be out there too. And every now and again, you might uncover something that is very special. And you're like, let me fix that right now for you, so that way the agency doesn't have some of those moments, because those E&O claims can really take a lot of time out of your day and cause a lot of chaos in the agency too.
Yeah. I mean, we've definitely have seen certain things that have kind of spiked our interest in that sense. We've found issues where policies might have been renewed and they weren't renewed with the same coverages, and that was an error on the carrier side. These are certain things that we wouldn't be able to catch if we didn't start this review process. So we're definitely thankful that we've been able to go through it, and customers or our service staff is now looking for certain things that are helping not just the agency itself but the producers, and it's kind of everyone's starting to work as a team now because of it. So it's great.
Yeah, I definitely understand the value of all the training and the knowledge. We've given them an opportunity to seize the fact that it's not somebody else's responsibility. It's anybody's responsibility that touches that policy or that account. We're working here as a team because you don't want to be put in that same position. If you come across something, let's say, Kelly, you don't want to be put in the position of all of a sudden somebody showing up for a podcast and they're not being scheduled, right? You don't know what's going on. You don't know who this is. You don't know what this is going to turn into.
Not sending an agenda ahead of time. That's the worst. I hate
exactly. It. Yeah. So making sure we've gotten we know and setting those timetables as well, and that time expectations for our customers, and everybody's been absolutely fantastic with that.
Well, I'm just so excited for you guys, because my favorite part about the renewal review call program, and I don't know if I've ever said this out loud, is it's actually watching everyone freak out in the beginning. And because I've done it so many times, what to expect. It's if you've worked out enough, you're going to be sore and then you're going to get through it. But then to get to the end where people saw how much potential they really have, right? It's, oh my gosh, there's no way we can call 8,000 people this year, to, I think we can, and we're actually kind of good at it.
Right.
Watching that transformation in 6 months, it sounds like such a long time, but I don't know about you, but I felt like it went by really fast for us.
Yeah, it definitely went by really fast. I don't know if it's just the year that we're going through, but it definitely went by really fast. But I think that it's the approach that you have when you tell somebody that they have to make let's say an account review so many times. 8,000 clients is a lot of clients if you think about it. But if I'm looking at different data and I see they're answering, on a weekly basis, they're answering close to 1,200 phone calls. Is that really that much time? One of those phone calls becomes an account review, right? You put more value in that phone call rather than just taking a payment or sweeping a payment or sending some ID cards. So that whole value shift is huge, and it's going to help the agency grow in the future.
Yeah, and if I recall too, I don't know as though the team was really looking at increasing coverage. I think they were really just transactional. So now they're kind of on the lookout. And it was so cool. One of the things, listeners, just so you know, that they did was gave away Amazon gift cards every week. And so even at the last one, we did the big giveaway. I mean, they were just so happy. And, you know, in typical account manager fashion, I don't deserve it. I'll give it to somebody else. I'm like, no, that's your Christmas gifts, man.
Yeah. We definitely had people who thought they didn't deserve it and wanted to either share it or throw it back in the pot. But yeah, making it fun and showing them that we're not here just to tell you what we need you to do in your job. Obviously, that's just the role of being an employee, but we want to make it as fun as possible, and we also make sure that it's going to continue your growth. So making it fun, you know, putting fun people in front of them like Kelly. There's a lot of benefits to that for sure.
I don't know how fun I am, but
You're a blast.
I try. Well, as we kind of wrap up, because I know you guys have a very important agency to run. You know, if you have any words of advice out there for our listeners in insurance, like what's the biggest lesson that you guys just carry with you, you know, of throughout your whole career, kind of one piece of advice you give any agent out there if you met them at a cocktail party, because those don't exist anymore because we can't go anywhere to see each other. So we're going to try to start the world's largest podcast cocktail party. You bump into someone at the bar. What's your biggest piece of advice that you'd give them on anything insurance related or running a business?
You want to go first?
See, I'm looking. Sure, go for it.
I think that I've been to enough conferences, and those conferences always talk about internal problems and how people are looking for feedback and or advice on things. And I always come back to the fact that nothing changes if nothing changes.
That's a good one.
If you don't put your foot forward and start making changes, you're going to be in the same spot, you know, 5 years from now. I look at back some of those notes and those first conferences that we've been together about ideas that were tossed around there. And I go, why haven't I still implemented this? This is still a great idea to implement within the agency. So if nothing changes, nothing is going to change at all.
It's because you've changed everything else. You changed 100 processes this year. You just got to.
There's so many more to do. It's definitely a never-ending business.
Yeah, and to build off that, don't get distracted by every new shiny.
Good one.
If you're working on 2-3 things, finish whatever you're doing, or be confident enough to where you're, you know, that process is to a point where you're happy with it before you move on to the next thing. Because then you're going to be, I mean, every agency owner right now, I guarantee you, is just so, you know, Brent Kelly does this great thing where he does this illustration where you walk into office and then he scribbles all over the board. And then the day's over. He's like, and I'm not even sure what I did all day, but I was busy all day.
Yep.
So in that aspect of it, just find the 2, 3, 4 things that you need to really, really focus on. Do them really, really well before you find another thing to work on. So
that's a good one. And
however long it takes, just stick to it. Because these things don't, I mean, you know, like I was saying, you're not going to touch every single client once in a month. It's just not going to happen. It's going to take time. So be patient, stick to it.
It's like you have to execute something, not just think about it.
Yep.
Finish it off. Excuse me. And the one thing I want to say is, like, my piece of advice that I've learned from you two to our listeners is these two guys are so committed to the agency. On our first training, it was Father's Day weekend. And I think, Bogus, you were in the office at like 4 a.m. working to clean up data. So you had a good launch for the team.
I mean, I felt like I erased my AMS system. So a little bit of panic, but yes, I got in at 3:30 in the morning just to make sure that we had the data ready for our call on my first Father's Day. So yeah, I was here.
And then Lucas has been so great, like staying late, running reports so that when the teams have the meeting, like the reports are ready and accurate. And so I think the biggest thing I learned from you guys is like the level of commitment matters. You know, if you really want to see something out in your agency, you have to commit to it. And you guys really have stepped up to that plate and been pretty awesome with it.
I mean, the bottom line is the most important thing within an agency, right? You have to make sure that you have one central source of data and information that you follow as a pulse of that lifeline. And that's important not only to you as the agency owner, but it's also important to, you know, the rest of your team members and their families. So we want to make sure that we're making the right business decisions based off of all the interactions that we have. And I think that's huge, because I think that's where most agencies are going to start figuring out the value of all the data that they collect from all the touch points and all the communications and processes and products that they sell, and how that's going to help enrich their lives, their team members' lives, and the lives of their clients. So, we got to put in our hard work, that's for sure.
Well, it's been a pleasure. And before I totally lose my voice, I'll let you guys go because I think my voice is struggling all of a sudden. So thank you guys so much for being on the podcast. And listeners, check out Handzel Insurance, handzel.com is their URL. And we'll see you on the next podcast.
Thank you, Kelly.
Bye, Kelly.
Thank you.
Is building processes and procedures top on your list to do this year? But you're overwhelmed and you don't know where to start. With so many things on your plate, how can you be ridiculously amazing at all of them? You just can't. It's not possible. Although I wish it was. And if someone has that method out there, let me know. But if there's only a template you could start with, would that change things? There is now. Our new Agency Performance Partners website has an entire section of process packs for your agency. Our process packs include not only the workbook, the templates, emails, scripts, and videos to go along with each section so that you're not alone. You can download them and tailor them exactly to your agency, but it gives you a place to start. And you get the best practices that we've developed over the course of time. What's better than that? We keep adding more every month, so you need to check in. But just to get started, we have winning back unsold quotes, setting goals for every role in your agency, 6 strategies to help you run your agency, job descriptions, a hiring guide, sales scripts, retention scripts, and personal lines endorsement checklists. And more are coming all the time, so you have to be on it to check it out. Follow our social media or emails to get in on the know. Head to our website for more details. You can see each process pack and you can actually buy them right online. No need, if it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you are stressed about writing job descriptions, we got you. Also, most of them are $100 to $200, so they're very reasonable. And you get all the updates. If you're looking for something we don't have, let us know. We're happy to create it. But bottom line, if processes and procedures on your mind, we have you covered. You just have to go to our new website, go to the online store section, and you will see a whole section on agency process packs. We will see you there.
Well, I hope you learned so much from the Handzel Agency. I know I did, and it was such a pleasure working with their team and watching their account managers develop and grow. And that's one of my passions in life. So if you're interested or have any questions on our programs or services, please reach out. And hopefully we'll see each other again soon. Take care.